Hi, welcome back to the Story By podcast. Thanks for stopping by. Today's story, I Did Tell You Not to Touch, is a short one, and I can tell you more about its origins after the show if you want to stick around. It also features the return of Aislinn White in the role of the young woman. She apparently enjoyed performing on last week's episode, and the only audience comments about the girls' performances were positive. I guess that means we'll keep them around. So without any further ado, why don't you join us at the MacLeod Museum of Murder and Mayhem, where a thief finds that stealing dangerous weapons may prove hazardous to his health.
I did tell you not to touch.
The spires of the MacLeod mansion reached like claws toward the moonlit sky. The massive Gothic structure lurked beside a cemetery, which seemed only fitting for such a place. However, on the opposite side of the house lay a wide, well-lit parking lot. A shadow passed across the sign that declared the mansion to be the MacLeod Museum of Murder and Mayhem, as the thief, a slim black-clad figure carrying a backpack, crept toward the enormous manor. Staying clear of the glowing pools cast by the security lights, the thief scurried to a side window, pulled a small rectangular device from a belt pouch, and attached it to the window frame. After a moment, the device chirped softly. The thief detached the gadget, tucked it into a belt pouch, and with the aid of a small pry bar, raised the window with only a small squeak. After a moment, to determine if even that slight noise had alerted anyone, the thief slithered in through the window. He found himself inside a sitting room full of display cases and racks containing seemingly random objects, each under display spotlights. He removed his backpack, set it on the floor, and stashed the pry bar. He then pulled a bundle from his pack and unfurled it, revealing a large duffel bag. After replacing his pack on his back, the thief approached a display case containing a folding razor. The tag on the case read, 1933, razor used by Sammy Slicer Sachs to murder 112 members of the Fratelli crime family. The thief pulled a different device from a different belt pouch and placed it on the display case. After another soft beep, he removed the device, lifted the case lid, extracted the razor, and tossed it into the duffel bag. He followed the same pattern as he swept the room, emptying cases and throwing the contents into his duffel. With a bag already heavy with items, the thief entered an immense open ballroom ringed with chairs. His eyes were immediately drawn to a massive red grand piano lurking on one side, a gleaming silver candelabra in a case atop it. A side panel of the piano had been removed, revealing a complicated mechanism and several peculiar storage tanks. Like a mouse crossing a kitchen, the thief scurried across the wide dance floor, his steps nearly silent, even in the enormous open space. He reached the piano and read the tag hanging below the open side panel. Russian red piano used by Zoya Volkov to drain blood from her students during their lessons? A series of hair-thin needles atop the keys would continuously prick their fingers and draw the blood into the storage vessel inside the piano. That is messed up. The thief shook his head, placed his device on the candelabra case. When it chirped, he tucked away the device, lifted the cover from the candelabra, turned, and placed the cover on the piano bench. When he turned back to reach for the candelabra, he was startled to discover a pale young woman in a white gown standing behind the piano.
I wouldn't touch that if I were you.
The thief shrieked and jumped back. "What are you doing here?" The young woman smiled and said,
Isn't that my line?
The thief reached for the candelabra again.
Seriously, that thing is cursed. Just read the tag.
The thief snatched the tag from the base of the candelabra. 18th century Marquis de Florin struck and killed his new bride with this candelabra. He looked up at the young woman. "That's kind of tame compared to all this other stuff,"
Well,
the young woman said.
That was just the beginning. As she lay dying, she cursed the Marquis and the candelabra. The Marquis was guillotined during the French Revolution.
The thief shrugged, said, "Lots of people got guillotined during the French Revolution." The young woman smiled.
But it didn't kill him the first time it dropped. They had to drop the blade 5 more times.
Okay, weird, but...
The man who seized the candelabra in the Revolution was set upon by a pack of wild dogs.
The young woman continued.
As centuries passed, the candelabra made its way to America, and every man who took it by force was killed in a gruesome way.
Yeah, but it was old-timey times. Lots of bad stuff. She raised a finger to silence him.
At every incident, witnesses claim to see a pale woman with a bloody head wound watching the men die.
Okay, well, that's a little weird, the thief said.
Maybe just steal the not cursed stuff here. There's plenty,
the young woman said. Sure, but a lot of it's only valuable to those weirdo collectors, and I gotta find the right person. That candlestick is actual 18th century silver? It's literally worth its weight. The young woman sighed, shook her head sadly.
You'll be sorry.
The thief shuffled his feet. I understand what you're saying, but The thief pointed. Holy moose, what is that? The young woman turned to see what caught his attention. Doing so revealed a gory wound at the back of her skull. She turned back and found both the thief and the candelabra gone. The young woman sighed, exasperated.
They never listen.
The thief's feet slapped a rapid beat across the marbled floor of the entrance hall as he dashed toward the main door. He didn't even care if he tripped an alarm on the way out. He was getting out. The young woman stood in front of the massive oaken door, blocking his exit. The thief veered left, hit another sturdy wooden door full force, and disappeared into the room beyond. As the door swung back, one of the spotlights revealed the word dungeon carved into the door's heavy planks. The thief found himself on a catwalk over a huge room filled with medieval torture devices, as well as carpentry and stoneworking tools. He dashed toward the stairs at the opposite end of the catwalk, hoping there was an exit in the room below. The young woman appeared at the top of those stairs, blocking his escape. Startled, the thief dropped the candelabra. He pivoted to run back the way he came, and tangled his feet in the candelabra. He tried to kick free, stumbled, windmilled his arms to keep his balance, and pitched over the rail. The young woman leaned over the rail, watched the thief's descent. When silence finally fell, the young woman dusted her hands as if finishing a project and said,
I did tell you not to touch.
Crime scene tape fluttered in the morning breeze around the perimeter of the MacLeod Museum of Murder and Mayhem. 2 police cars, a crime scene van, and an ambulance sat in the parking lot. An older uniformed cop wearing a mustache and about 20 extra pounds stood beside a patrol car. He watched the scene and drank from a cup of coffee. A pair of EMTs hauled a covered corpse out the front door on a gurney and headed for the open back doors of their ambulance. A younger uniformed cop, clean-shaven and still full of energy and the desire to be the good guy, bounded down the steps after the EMTs. He carried a digital camera and waved it at the older cop as he approached. You gotta see this, it's awful! The younger cop handed the camera to his partner, who waved away his concern and said, at my age you've seen everything, and started flipping through the pictures on the display. Within a few photos, he paled and blurted out, Holy moose! The younger cop replied, I know, right? It's like he fell and hit every torture device on the way down, then got attacked by the workman's tools. The older cop handed the camera back, said, They'll never ID him. Believe it or not, I actually did ID him. The younger cop flipped through the photos, pointed the display at his partner. Put it away. The younger cop pointed at the display. If you look at that chunk right there, the older cop raised his hand and said, Nope, not looking. Anyway, that's part of this tattoo that I remembered seeing on one of the lookout sheets the detectives pass out. It was listed as an identifying mark for this burglar for hire who specializes in museums and art galleries. Guess that'll clear some cases. Yep, we found his loot bag in the piano room. No idea what he was doing in the dungeon. Since it's being remodeled, the only thing down there is stuff that's too big to move. Well, and the workman's tools. The older cop shrugged, said, let the detectives worry about it. The 2 cops watched the ambulance pull away. As it passed, the younger cop noticed movement in one of the museum windows. As he opened his mouth to get his partner's attention, the young woman winked and waved and faded away. So yeah, when a mysterious woman tells you a ghost story as a warning, maybe pay attention. Otherwise, you might end up like the thief. I Did Tell You Not to Touch is another piece that began as an NYC midnight script. This time the genre was ghost story, the location was a museum, and the object was a candelabra. This seemed like probably the easiest combination of elements I ever got. I just had to jam them all into a 5-page script. This story, like the others on the podcast, is available for option for production as a short movie or feature, or whatever, really. Like Snooper Sisters, it's a movie I'd like to make myself, but there are only so many hours in a day. So, if you really want to shoot this, or any of the others featured on Story by Podcast, Get in touch at storybypodcast@gmail.com or on Facebook, Twitter, or the show notes blog. As always, thanks again for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Story by Podcast is a production of Fiddling Around Productions, LLC, and copyright 2018. Theme music is provided by Nalani Proctor, nalaniproctor.com, and used with permission. Other incidental music provided by Kevin MacLeod, incompetech.com. Edited by Lewayne White, and licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license.